What's up, everybody? So, what you're looking at here is, to me, a clear red, to me, a acrylic thinner, and then you're looking at Ranger Alcohol Ink Red Pepper. So, what the heck is this? I was at the Hobby Lobby, which is the local arts and crafts store that's near me. There's also a Michael's, but Hobby Lobby was closer. And those type of arts and crafts supply stores are where you'll find this Ranger alcohol ink. But I was walking through the different aisles, just seeing what they got, because you can find some interesting stuff for bases or terrain or the like. And I came across in the stamp section different inks, acrylic, glittery stuff, and then this alcohol ink in both spray bottle and eyedropper varieties for porous and non-porous surfaces as are listed. This one's for non-porous. This one's formulated, I guess you could say, to give off a polished effect once it dries, so glossy-ish. And it got me thinking, because I want to collect the Thousand Sons Legion again. That pre-heresy Thousand Sons look is what got me into the pre-heresy truly when I saw the artwork for those guys. And it was the first pre-heresy force I had. I got rid of that force a bit ago. But I want to collect it again, and I want to do it in a really cool look. And Forge World gave us a glimpse of a really cool look via what's been called the Tizca Ruby. Look at the Contemptor Dreadnought for the Thousand Sons and the Ashy and Scarab example models, and you'll see Tizca Ruby in effect. What they basically did is they probably took Angron Red and in an airbrush, thinned it down, and sprayed it over a metallic to give it like a candy red effect. That's probably what they did, and I say that because I used to meet a clear red for the Red Talon test models over a silver to get a very similar kind of idea. So, with me wanting to collect in that way, I got to thinking, what can I do to achieve that? And I have to me a clear red, and I got thinner recently, and I was going to thin it down for the paintbrush just to make it apply that much easier, because I don't have an airbrush yet. Once I get an airbrush, which may take still a few months more, I know I did a ramble way back when on it, and I got great information, but I also lost all the stuff I had set up for the airbrush information on the old computer when it went down, so I had to kind of do my research yet again. It just hasn't been in the cards to get one. I've moved around since then, but it might be in the coming months I might be capable of getting one. So an airbrush would solve all the problems. It would just be, to me, a clear red all day, every day for Thousand Sons, and I'd be fine. But since I have a paintbrush only right now, and since not everybody's going to have an airbrush, this intrigued me when I saw it. So it's a red ink, but it's alcohol based, so it's very thin, which means that it's not going to gum up detail really easily. And I was thinking, since it's thin, streaking might be a non-issue. The issue with, to me, a clear red with a paintbrush is that it streaks. Just the way it is. It's not of a similar consistency to other acrylics like Citadel or Vallejo or whatnot. It's as a flammable acrylic, and it handles a bit differently. I was thinking thinning it down could help, but still it'll streak, and that's not a big problem on infantry because several thin coats and you got it all built up very nicely, and any minor inconsistencies only add to the charm of the model. It just adds to the look on infantry. But on vehicles, that streaking becomes problematic. I've seen people show their results and say no matter what they did, they got weird streaking going on, basically in an airbrush for those larger, flatter surfaces. I'm thinking something really thin like this would be a non-issue for that. So that's why it really intrigued me. Now, I have since done research online to this company, and it looks like they offer inks in blues and purples and whatnot. I just saw red and brown, so I got the red one. But it looks like there are some other colors out there. So it got me thinking, this might work for vehicles, like I said. So what I did is I got a bit. Now this isn't the best in terms of being a flat, large surface, but I thought it would help test out how this alcohol ink would behave on a model. You know, would it all pool in a certain area, would it not, and so on. So I got this bit, and I did it half in acrylic gold, this left half, and this right half is alcohol gold, the Vallejo liquid gold. And the reason I did that is because this is very much flammable, very much alcohol ink. It's got extra warnings on it. It's not just a flammable warning, it's got an irritant warning, a vapor warning. It is very much alcohol based. And that's why those warnings are on there, which is fine. So that got me thinking, if isopropyl alcohol is really good at stripping paint, and if alcohol-based paints can be reinvigorated after being fully dried to become paint again via isopropyl alcohol, which they can, I was concerned that this alcohol ink would basically do that while you're painting the model up and cause a mess and a problem. And my concerns were kind of justified, because if you look in the center here, you can see it looks kind of odd. I noticed when I was really applying the alcohol, I was applying it carefully, but on the flatter surfaces where you're really, doing brush strokes a bit more so to get the coverage, it was picking up gold. The paintbrush was getting gold. You can see streaks of lack of gold in certain areas. So that was, unfortunate. But the acrylic side really doesn't have that. The acrylic side covered really nicely. The lighting is pretty bad. I can't do the video during the daytime because even with the blinds closed, the sunlight when it shines in just screws up the lighting. So this is the kind of the best light I can get thus far, unfortunately. But anyway, it worked really well. And it does give a glossy shine when it's dry. This isn't glossy, and I'll get to that in a moment. But it worked out pretty well. It didn't lift the paint off. The acrylic paint seemed pretty resistant to it. I wasn't scrubbing it. I wasn't scrubbing the other side either. But it looks like if you're going to utilize alcohol ink, you're going to want an acrylic base to go over. Or if you use the alcohol-based metallic paints, you might want to seal it with an acrylic varnish or something before moving on and painting over it. That might help you as well. One thing I haven't tried that I know works decent with Tamiya Clear Red to kind of cut it a little bit is to mix it with varnish and then apply it. When I did it with Tamiya Clear Red, I noticed it kind of adhered a bit better to the model. It didn't take quite as long to dry. I just noticed it kind of worked nicely. I didn't try that with the alcohol ink because I didn't think of it at the time. But I did think about testing how to varnish it, because with inks, and I was looking at the old Citadel inks, which are basically kind of just ink. When you put a varnish over it, it bleeds the ink. Now, it doesn't bleed it out to make fuzzy detail like on paper, but what that means is the ink will leach into the varnish and will get onto your paintbrush. So if you're going to varnish those inked areas with the old Citadel acrylic ink, and any acrylic ink, I think, for that matter, if it's straight up ink and not so much a wash or whatever, it'll re-wet itself and it will bleed into your brush. So what you have to do is varnish those areas on their own, probably at the end, varnish around it and carefully varnish those areas independently. That way you don't transfer the lifted, re-wetted ink onto other surfaces. I was concerned that the alcohol ink would do that, and it was ever so slightly. I noticed it a little bit. And to the point where it really wouldn't be an issue. That's why this matte part is here. That's a matte varnish. And this is gloss varnish up here. Now, if I was truthfully painting this up, I would probably do an extra 2 to 3 coats of the alcohol ink carefully to really build up a bold, rich red over the gold base. And I'm using gold as opposed to silver because I think the gold gives a warmer tone, for me personally, that fits the Thousand Suns better. But anyways, I would probably do an extra 2 to 3 layers before actually being done with the red, just to really build up that bold, rich red. And I say that because when it's matte, you can see a bit more gold come through than when it's glossy, and that might be because the gloss kind of hides it, and it might be because it's just not enough layers to my liking. But it's not because it lifted that much ink off. No. But I did notice there was a little bit of ink being applied to the brush while varnishing. So that is one thing to keep in mind. But it's really minimal, or it's not going to screw up your paint job. At least it didn't seem like it would from my testing. So, to wrap this all up, because I've been rambling on long enough, this Tamiya Clear Red is great stuff. Angron Red I heard is really good too from Forge World. This Tamiya Clear Red is going to do wonders for infantry. That's how I'm going to do my infantry. It just works out fine for them. Just fine. If I ever get an airbrush, it'll probably just be Tamiya Clear Red solely. But should I be collecting the force, and should it come time to build up a tank or a dreadnought or what have you, I'm going to look at the alcohol ink as a nice alternative to use. The red, I feel, is comparable to Tamiya Clear Red in terms of they won't look drastically different next to each other. I think they'll look pretty similar. So that's a plus. But I do know that infantry is going to be Tamiya Clear Red, and then brush-wise, probably the alcohol ink, just because straight out of the bottle, no prep needed. You just put it onto a palette, put it on your brush, and paint with it, and you get the effect without having to really cut it down with anything. Unlike Tamiya Clear Red, where I'm guessing you have to cut it down with thinner and you still have an issue of it streaking. So, great for infantry for that, because of the irregular surfaces, but without an airbrush, Tamiya Clear Red has issues with larger flatter surfaces with a regular brush. Not with an airbrush, obviously. So yeah, that's my finance and alcohol inks. I didn't know that this was a thing until I stumbled across it. So this might be an answer for some of you out there. They do offer different colors. I don't know the exact range, but I do know blue is one of them. I think green is also. So if this is something that might work for you but in a different color, potentially, I encourage you to check it out online. It's Ranger, and I also think it's Jim Holtz. And Ranger alcohol ink. This one's red pepper. Anyway, I'm liking it. I don't really have an army list set up for the Thousand Suns or anything yet, so I don't exactly know what vehicles I'll be using. I know there's going to be a Land Raider in there because I like Land Raiders. So aside from that, I don't know where red pepper may get used, but it was a pretty cool thing to find, and I think it can work in the hobby for certain situations, for sure. So that's it. Thanks for sticking to this ramble. If you have experience with this stuff already, share it in the comment section, share your thoughts on it, and if not, maybe pick up a alcohol ink color and play around with it. You never know what effect it could do well for you, whether it's weathering, terrain, or otherwise. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for sticking through it. Hope you enjoy. Any questions, comments, or requests, leave them in the comment section. And until next time, take it easy.